welcome to another episode of Service Management in the Movies. Today we're going to take a look at Fawlty Towers, a BBC comedy series created by John Cleese and Connie Booth, starring John Cleese and Connie Booth, Pernilla Scales, and Andrew Sachs. The show centers around a small hotel run by Basil Fawlty. The situations are exaggerated for humor, but the reasons why things go so horribly wrong are surprisingly realistic. We're going to see unclear expectations, poor communications, a lack of support, and the stress that builds when the system is poorly designed. So in this video, we're going to examine where stress in service teams comes from and share practical methods that you can use to reduce stress and prevent burnout. So in this first scene, Mrs. Richards is a perfect example of a challenging customer, one who is suspicious, demanding, and very emotionally volatile. Let's take a look.
Can I help you?
Yeah.
Got it. Would you give me change for this, please?
In one moment. I'm just dealing with this gentleman. Yes, Mr. Thurston.
What?
Thank you. I was wondering if you
I
could go...
need change for this.
So Polly does remarkably well here. She redirects the conversation, keeps the interaction grounded, and avoids taking the customer's frustration personally for the most part. But notice she's relying entirely on her own judgment and emotional control. There's no shared standard approach, presumably, no agreed way to de-escalate difficult customers and situations, and no leader stepping in to help. Now contrast this with Basil in a later interaction with the same customer.
When I pay for a view, I expect something more interesting than that.
That is Torquay, madam.
But it's not good enough.
Well, may I ask what you were expecting to see out of a Torquay hotel bedroom window? Sydney Opera House, perhaps? The hanging gardens of Babylon? Herds of wildebeest sweeping majestically?
Don't be silly. I expect to be able to see the sea.
You can see the sea. It's over there between the land and the sky.
So a lot of stress in service work comes from what's called emotional labor. The effort required to stay calm, patient, and professional when customers are upset or demanding, like Mrs. Richards clearly is. So earlier, Polly handled the same customer with patience and skill, but again, that wasn't likely because the system supported her. Rather, she was drawing on her own emotional energy. And here we see Basil later in the day, managing the same kind of emotional intensity, but now under accumulated stress. When staff are expected to manage high emotional interactions without training, support, or shared approach, stress starts to accumulate. An emotional strain often leaks out through sarcasm, frustration, withdrawal, or sometimes even through explosive reactions. These are signs that indicate impending burnout. People are still doing the work, but they're tense and stressed and certainly not calm. And it shows. Service staff often hear phrases like stay calm and maintain a positive attitude, but that advice ignores the real issue. Handling emotional intensity should be a shared team skill and not an individual burden. So tip number 1, equip your team with shared language and techniques for de-escalating situations and working with difficult customers. So in this next scene, Basil returns to see that a major entryway has been sealed up. I think it's to the dining room. Let's take a look.
Polly! Manuel! Polly! What have you done with my hotel, Polly?
So this happens in service environments all the time. So expectations aren't written down, roles aren't well defined, and everyone assumes that everyone's on the same page. When expectations are unclear, people tend to fill in gaps with assumptions, which often leads to rework, blame, frustration, and eventually burnout. Leaders often think instructions are obvious when they often really aren't. So if 2 or more people are involved, assumptions are going to be made. So tip number 2, if it matters, write it down. When stress starts to build up, team members often shift from solving problems to managing appearances, how they look, how they come across. Basil chose the cheaper contractor, which led up to this scene, to prove a point, and when the work goes sideways, he looks for someone to blame. When things go wrong, blame adds even more stress. So transparent ownership reduces it. So tip number 3, take ownership and create psychological safety. When issues occur or mistakes are made, as they will as will happen, the goal should be not to blame, but to learn from them. Leadership sets the emotional tone for the team. So, for example, in this exchange between the hotel owners, Basil and Sybil and Basil Fawlty.
You could have had them both done by now if you hadn't spent the whole morning skulking in there listening to that racket.
Racket? That's Brahms! Brahms' third racket!
So leaders model the behavior that they want to see, whether intentional or not. Basil's sarcasm and irritability become the emotional template that on how others are expected to operate. As a result of these encounters, teams adapt to their environment, such as in this scene.
Polly, would you ask Terry not to finish yet? We need another one of these. There is sugar on it.
What a sweet place.
What?
I'll have it replaced.
Well, why is there sugar in this salt cellar? What do you think we pay you for?
My staying power?
For lambs.
Yes, I'm getting them.
So Polly's quick, sarcastic wit is a coping mechanism. In a stressful system, sarcasm becomes a substitute for support to relieve tension in a moment but that also normalizes the frustration. And when stress becomes chronic, it leaks inevitably into service quality, and customers are obviously impacted. So staff start reacting to problems instead of resolving them. And finally, we see a breaking point with Basil.
I'm gonna give you a damn good thrashing!
So the scene is played for comedy, but the message is real. The frustration is real. When people feel trapped in a broken system, stress eventually finds a release point. And when stress has nowhere healthy to go, it can come out obviously sideways through irritability, cynicism, mistakes, and eventually staff turnover. People don't break because they're weak. They break because the system demands more than it supports. So how do we prevent burnout? Not by telling people to stay positive, be calm, or by hiring resilient personalities. We prevent burnout by designing a supportive system, and we can do this through several methods. One, clarifying roles and expectations. So team members need to know what good looks like and are staffed appropriately to address situations that will arise. Two, provide shared tools for handling difficult situations. Emotional labor, as we mentioned, should be a shared skill set, not an individual burden. Run through situations or what if scenarios after situations arise. What could we have done differently? And run through simulated what if scenarios. Three, normalize asking for help early. So support assistance shouldn't be a last resort. Leaders should regularly monitor situations and the well-being of their team. Four, be honest and transparent. Most customers respond well if told the truth. And when you try to hide or cover up, as happens throughout this series, customers tend to become much more irate. Five, model the behavior you want to see. So leaders set the tone for how stress is handled. Calm, clear, and respect cascades downwards. And the same goes for sarcasm and blame. A supportive tone at the top builds resilience throughout the team. Create an environment that encourages partnership, support, and continual support across the team. Recognize signs of stress and take active steps to address it. So in closing, Fawlty Towers exaggerates the chaos often associated with service management, but many organizations experience the same underlying stress. Teams thrive when roles are clear, the work is balanced, and the system supports both the people and the work. Thank you for watching. To see how leaders can help move teams through change, or how leaders can get caught up in pride and perspective, take a look at the two videos on your screen. Other than that, take care, have a fantastic day, and we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye now.